Got married 2007. One day, I just decide I want to do my own business.
If he says like, I want to do this, he's got to do it. He immediately bought a food trailer on the day, I guess.
First day, we sold out. So I thought, yeah. But second days, not a lot of people actually came to me. But I don't want to just stand up waiting the customer. So I start playing some game with my partner. 가위바위보, 진 사람 막 스파이시 소스 막 먹고 소리 지르고 막 놀기 시작했는데 suddenly people actually looking at us. So we start yelling it. Suddenly people actually came to our food truck and make the line.
Our finance was very strong. We had a lot of cash flow, and then we're just growing over time.
We just finding some people, putting the trucks. I thought that's the system.
What's our goal? Short-term, medium-term, and long-term goal.
Some other people don't like Doug join our company.
So basically, my husband got fired in front of.
All right, how are we? Great. Good? Ready? Another nice week. Wow, see guys, this is literally the power of our brand, right? So Leighton is...
So I came to the States when I was 11. I'm born and raised in Korea, a bit of a crazy story. So my family came on a vacation to the States when I was 11, back in 1999. We toured the West Coast, did all the, national parks and everything. We were all supposed to go back actually. My parents sat me and my brother down. Oh, by the way, we're leaving tomorrow. You guys are not coming back with us. So that's how I got to the US and just started living here. I didn't really know what was going on. I remember, the day before my parents flew back, they also bought me a game. Even when my parents were leaving, I didn't quite comprehend what was going on at the time. So I was just like, hey, see ya. I'm gonna go back to playing my game. Prior to Cupbop, I was in finance for a number of years. I started off at Goldman Sachs as an equity research analyst, where I spent about 2.5 years. After that, I became an investor at a hedge fund called Citadel. At Goldman, they'll say, hey, we need to do this. We want to research this. We need to write research reports. We have a deadline. We got to get this done by next week. Let's go. Whereas Citadel, here's $300 million. Go make money. So your base salary is anywhere from $150 to $250. Bonus ranges 0 into the millions. A lot of people were very surprised when I said I was leaving, and especially more surprised when I said I was going to join a restaurant brand. Between Goldman and Citadel, I was coming up on 7 to 8 years on Wall Street. I just had this feeling that, man, there's so many things I want to try. I always felt that if I hit that 10-year mark in only finance, am I going to be able to try something new? Not that I can't try, but I also knew that even myself, would I want to try at that point? That's why I decided to leave Citadel. I got to know Cupbop as one of their first customers, loved the product, always thought that with the good team, this could be a brand that could go national. So that's why I decided to leave Citadel.
Before he joined our company, it was disaster. That time, we don't have any organizations at all. We just finding some people, putting the trucks, putting the stores, working so hard. I thought that's the system. But when Doug joined it, he trying to build up the structures.
We run rate about 1.3 right now, right? Like at 1.3, our model's so efficient, we can run under 20%.
I've never seen him looking at the numbers. I once told my husband, as a CEO of this company, you also need to understand the cash flow and financial status of the company. And he said, that is not my gift. That is something managed by a person who's professional for numbers and finance, but I'm not the person. So I'll do things I can do well.
At that time, it was very much still a local business, if not any planning at the time. What's our goal? Short-term, medium-term, and long-term goal. Those didn't exist at the time, so I worked on a 5-year plan for the company. Fairly aggressive plan, but something that was possible to achieve.
The first week, I didn't see his face at all. He just put in the computer, he did something. I thought he's crazy. After 1 week, he brought some big kind of a paper. Here we go. What is it? All the numbers. He actually making 5-year plan. That first week, he didn't even know how to making the Cupbop. He doesn't have any idea about the Cupbop culture. Some other people don't like Doug join our company. The reason why, he's super young, he's super smart, but he doesn't have any experience at the restaurant.
This was another big kind of red flag that I saw when I joined. It's a very common issue that happens among startups with multiple co-founders and/or partners. As you start growing, there needs to be a natural separation of roles within the company and the ownership of the company, because they're two different things. I may be an Apple shareholder, but that doesn't mean I have a role at Apple, right? I don't work there and I can still be owner. People have a very tough time separating the two because, hey, I have 30% ownership, like I need to be the decision maker on everything. No, you can be on the board, but the day-to-day, operating decisions are made by the people who have the respective roles. We had a weekly kind of owners meeting or shareholders meeting. You don't have weekly shareholders meeting, right? You'll have them quarterly or something. Shareholders don't make everyday decisions, and that was the practice at the time, and that will create a lot of bad decision making and a lot of inefficiencies. I started addressing and said, we need to really start separating this, or there's really no way we're going to be able to grow.
So back on November 9th, 2020, in front of me, my husband, a father of 5 children, got fired from those people who asserted that they own the majority of the company, which is not true though. So briefly to explain, the reason why this happened was because we hired a third-party consulting company to make a structure objectively, because we paid a lot of money, but when I asked my husband, hey, we can make a company structure, why should we hire paying this expensive money? And my husband said, we are trying to grow a company, not a mom and pop store anymore. We like to make a company we can compete each other fairly, so employees can expect, okay, if I do better in this company, I can be promoted. So we have to make a fair enough company that everybody can agree. So that was the reason why we hired this third-party company for consulting to build up a fair company structure. But during the process, one of those people said, why should I compete with employees? I'm an owner of this company. I don't want to compete with people I train. And I said, we already agreed, that's why we started this company together. And then all of a sudden, during this process of consultation, because you don't want to compete with employees, while you're taking all these benefits as an owner, with all these great dividends and great salaries, if you do not agree with, it's not going to happen, because, this is what we agreed originally.
It is critical to have all of your major shareholders sharing the same vision. If the vision, that ultimate vision and goal is not aligned, people have very different incentives in their actions. For example, if I'm interested in creating a national brand, I want to make sure I invest every dollar we have back into the company. Versus if I'm not as interested in becoming a national brand, I'm okay not growing as much, but making, pretty good money right now, then you would say, why do we have to invest everything back into the company? I'd rather dividend our profits out every year, even every quarter for that matter, which creates a very tough environment to work with.
The hardest part of that moment, that day, was that we never knew that was coming. That party was preparing the coup behind the scene for maybe about 2 months. I don't even know how long they were preparing. They were taking confidential information from an owner's meeting to the attorney they were talking to take over the company. And then on the day, we're waiting for one of those people to talk about repurchasing her equity, but she didn't show up. Instead, this lawyer showed up at the meeting. I was very surprised. And then I called our attorney saying, she never showed up, but instead, this attorney is here. And then our attorney said, don't say anything. So I told these people, hey, our attorney says don't, do not talk anything to this attorney, it's not beneficial. I still remember one of them telling me that, oh, don't worry about it. 5 minutes before the meeting started. And 5 minutes later, they started meeting by themselves without looking at me. In 30 minutes, they released me from prison for no reason. They fired my husband. They called because of harassment, which is a total lie. They just needed a reason. I almost passed out. Our partner, he was in shock too, and my husband was very calm. And after the meeting, my husband told them hey, Jung, let's talk about it. Let's talk about this. And they said, okay, wait. And they just ran away just like that.
The partner story? I really don't want to say anything. Get partners means get married in business. Think about really deeply. When you're trying to want to do business with your partners, think deeply and think about it one more time. And think about it again. If you can give up everything, then you can do the partner. If you think your partner is not your fit, then you every single day, every hour's moment is the hell.
When the coup happened about 2 years ago, that was really shock to me. His energy was the reason I came. When things happen and I couldn't accept that, I tried to get a petition from our general managers all around, and actually I got cut from one of a partner at the time, so I couldn't make it at all. But they tried to actually manipulate the fact, and they just to release the rumor which is not true. And I tried to fix them, I tried to correct. I felt really frustrated, okay, if Jung is terminated and there is a chance that I cannot work with him, probably I'm gonna go back to my country, and Cupbop is meaningless to me without him.
And later that day, we came home, and as soon as I entered into the house from the garage, my daughter asked, how's it going, Mom? What happened? First son, he was just he looked very worried, but couldn't ask any question, and my husband couldn't say a word, but rather he hugged all of our children and he started crying. Later that night, we're in bed and couldn't sleep. We couldn't sleep. Around 2 or 3 a.m., my husband asked me a question. The very first sentence he told me that day, he said, "What do you think I did wrong?" Instead of son of B or any swearing word, the very first question he said, what do you think I did wrong? And I told my husband, if you knew this was coming, would you change your plan not to build up a company? And then he said, maybe not, because he always wanted to make a company, strong enough company to stay for long, even after he leaves the position as a CEO. And I said, then you didn't do anything wrong. Don't stop thinking about things you feel you did wrong, but rather just focus on resolving this issue, because there are people who trust in you. So right after that happened, even if those 3 people betrayed us, many more people supported our company, including our employees, our crews, managers, district managers. All those people supported to sustain our company. The bank we were working with, and then parent company we're working with, and our partners, our Indonesian partners and our store partners, our investor group, they all supported. They were all on my husband's side to protect our company together.
And after a lot of drama, this and that, we ended up with 3 of the partners selling their shares and leaving the company. So, now it's just Jung and me just, rock and rolling every day.
I still remember. It was the busy day because truck schedules, morning to dinner. Saturday got rained in Utah. So we canceled all the event. But after a couple of hours, the rain stopped. Because I already canceled all the event, right? So I got some time. I took my 5 kids with my wife. We're riding bicycle just riding bicycle, not the special thing, anything. They are super happy. They're laughing so hard because they never done before. I actually went the corner and I cry. I look at my wife, she also cry on the corner. We worked so hard and those kids just waiting for this time so much and they never complain. Just little riding bicycle with the 5 kids was hard that time. I just give you a full excuse myself. Because of you, I have to work so hard, just waiting for it. They're waiting for me. That's just little happiness. Riding the bicycle, the all 5 kids was happy. And after those experiences, I need to focus on my family more. Just simple thing. Just riding bicycle regularly, and they're happy.
Don't believe in people, believe in the system. If you want to trust people, you have to have a great system.
We need to really somehow get our name out there to concrete ourselves as that first mover. Jung just said, let's get on Shark Tank. Let's go.
They are one of the top 5 famous entrepreneurs. They're fighting each other more than ours.